Okay, my clan requested that I start making videos on each of my builds to upload to YouTube, so I'm gonna start with this one. This is my favorite one I've ever made in the game, and no matter how many times I go away from it, I always end up remaking it just because it's so much more fun to play for me than anything else. I'll start with the subclass. I use Daybreak sometimes just for fun, but in any kind of actual content, you should be using Well of Radiance. Dive, because of its shortest cooldown, it doesn't matter which melee you use. I like Celestial Fire for range. Use Swarm Grenades because they're the most Scorch stacks applied for how fast of a cooldown they have. The only other stuff that applies nearly as many Scorch stacks as them is Incendiary, which I tried using. It was just a bit too slow for my liking. And then, of course, Thermite, if they stay in it the whole time. Could use Firebolts this season, but I like making builds that'll work any season. Need both of these, and the whole reason I originally made this build was because of that final text of Icarus Dash. While airborne, rapidly defeating targets with your super or weapon grants cure to you. And I thought, what would be some of the best weapons to get multi-kills with from the air, and I chose grenade launchers, and that's what turned me into a Fighting Lion main. I use some of these fragments are just to manage to hit double 100 stats, but you definitely need, if you aren't trying to hit stats, you need this one so you can get your dive back as fast as possible. Need Ember of Ashes because with Ember of Ashes, a Celestial Fire and a Swarm Grenade will cause an ignition on one enemy. This one is simply to create fire sprites, and this one is simply to get restoration from the fire sprites, and this one I'm just using it to get plus 10 resilience. I use a auto-loading demo, Pardon Our Dust. There are better roles for PvE, but I use this in PvP as well, and I don't want to bother making two different masterworked crafted weapons. It works fine. You can pretty easily swap between them over and over because of how Fighting Lion works, which I'll explain later. Mods, I have both siphons on, so no matter what I'm getting kills with, I can make orbs and Font of Wisdom for maxing out super regen along with Nezarec increased regen. Same for Discipline for max grenade regen possible. You need at least one Void Loader with Fighting Lion. It's pretty slow if you manage to miss a shot otherwise. This one, because you're able to spam melee so much with heat rises. Nothing but just more stacks to make them last longer on the chest. Stacks on stacks honestly isn't even necessary with how many orbs you make, but I like it just because it saves how many times I have to drop down from the air to pick up more orbs. Avoid Siphon if you want to buff Fighting Lion's damage, or power Siphon matching your power weapons element, whatever you want. Doesn't really matter for orb mod either. I just like spamming grenades more because Heat Rises takes care of the melee regen. Then, just on the off chance that you do have to use your dive, you get a few benefits from it, but the thing about this build is you should not use the dive unless you absolutely need a heal. But I've liked to start coming to the entrance to Vault of Glass to test my loadouts just to see how they survive. This isn't a Nightfall build. It's not going to keep you alive very well in a Nightfall just because it's you have to stay in the air for the build to work well. That's just not a good thing to do in Nightfall, as you're just going to get melted. But pretty much anywhere else, I've taken it through Duality, Spire, a lot of raids. Pretty much anything but Nightfalls it can handle fine. Let me go ahead and place my well so you can see the regen speed. Get heat rises. And normally you'd be very squishy in the air, but every 3 kills with Fighting Lion gives you cure ×1. thing about Fighting Lion is if you kill something with it, then swap and kill something else, it reloads Fighting Lion. So you can kind of just swap back and forth between the two grenade launchers. Like I said, you never use your dive unless it's an emergency situation. Always have it in the backup, just in case. But if you do need it, it gives you restoration times too, for a few seconds. This build almost, and his words not mine, almost converted my hunter friend to a warlock when I made it for him. It's just definitely the most active, fast-paced build I've made ever. No matter how many times I move away from it, I can't seem to go very long without rebuilding it. I've used sun bracers and stuff like that, but I just find this much more fun. Honestly, sun bracers it makes the game so easy, it's a bit boring. But it really is as simple as just constantly pelt stuff with Fighting Lion to stay alive, and every time you get your abilities, use them. You can see this could be good for raids, even if you're wanting to be the main well lock for damage phases, because you get your, as long as you keep killing stuff with Nezarec, you get your Well of Radiance back in about a minute and a half max. This is also a good place to test this build because its worst enemies are hobgoblins because of their hit scan, and they never miss. Every time you kill something with Celestial Fire, you get another orb, and you see I constantly have 5 stacks. And the whole time I have all those stacks, I'm getting a lot faster regens. If you really want to, you could put emergency reinforcement on your chest piece so that if your shield does get broken, you have damage resistance for a little while. I haven't really found that it's needed. Usually the only time I die with this build is if I'm being greedy with my abilities. It's very simple, but you're surprisingly tanky for staying in the air constantly. Fighting Lion also auto reloads if you hit an enemy with a Fighting Lion and it doesn't kill that enemy, and then you kill it in any other way, it will reload Fighting Lion. That's it. Hopefully someone in the clan can make this on their Warlock and enjoy it as much as I have. I've never seen anyone else use anything like this, so it's definitely the most unique build I've ever made. But feel free to suggest any more builds, or give tips on how to improve these. I'm planning on just keeping on making more of these for the clan so they can have access to a bunch of different builds. I'm not sure how I'm gonna do the other classes because I barely play the other classes and I don't have many exotics. I may just have to do the mod setup on my Warlock and have the watcher pretend I'm on another class. But that's it for this one.